Drone crews from the 46th Separate Podillia Airborne Assault Brigade carried out one of the more striking strikes of the past few days, catching a large group of Russian troops, 22 of them out in the open. FPV drones going after dugouts and trenches, while reconnaissance drones fitted with drop munitions worked the same ground from above. Strike after strike landing on positions where soldiers were trying to dig in, and on men who had nowhere left to run once the drones found them. Now let's move to the ground situation, because it's a lot messier there and it's worth spending some real time on it. In Hryshyne is still the flashpoint. Russian forces keep throwing infantry and motorcycle assault groups at the northern edge of the village, trying to push out the Ukrainian positions that are still holding there. It's slow, grinding fighting, just relentless pressure day after day. And a bit further along, the enemy has managed to slip into Vasilivka and Novoalexandrivka. That sounds worse than it currently is. Right now, these are small, scattered infiltrations rather than an organized foothold, and Ukrainian units are finding and clearing that infantry as it shows up. The Russian forces are trying to work their way along a chain of settlements, pushing deeper toward Yurivka, and they're doing it by hunting for the thin spots, the places where Ukrainian defenders simply don't have enough people to cover every meter of front. At the same time, a separate Russian grouping is pressing hard on the cluster of villages south of Dobropilya. Two axes, same intent, keep stretching the defense until something gives. A large chunk of Russia's available manpower is currently tied up around Pokrovsk itself, where Ukrainian forces have deliberately concentrated their strike and reconnaissance effort. That's not incidental, it's the reason Russia has had to lean so heavily on the Hryshyne direction, because the troops that would normally reinforce there are pinned down elsewhere. Fighting around Pokrovsk hasn't slowed down, it's daily, and it's intense. And on the command side, senior military leadership has finally pushed back against repeated proposals to station troops on the outskirts of Pokrovsk purely to create the appearance of holding the line. That's a small line in a briefing, but it matters. Poland has quietly sent Ukraine a batch of Patriot missiles somewhere between 3 and 9, depending on how you count the transfer. That vague range isn't an accident. Polish officials are being deliberately non-specific about the exact figure. What they have been clear about is the scale relative to what Poland still holds. Deputy Defense Minister Cezary Tomczak was the one who confirmed the transfer, and he was careful to frame it as a small slice of Poland's own stockpile, not a meaningful drawdown of the country's air defense capability. Tomczak also laid out how the arrangement works going forward. Poland has an understanding with the United States. If a real threat to Polish airspace materializes, Warsaw gets access to a substantially larger number of replacement missiles. So this wasn't Poland giving something up and hoping for the best. There's a backstop built into the deal. In the Pokrovsk sector, Ukrainian soldiers managed to capture 3 Russian invaders without firing a single shot in the final stage of the operation. Over the course of 2 days, the operation unfolded in stages. It started conventionally enough, with mortar fire hitting Russian positions to break their will to keep fighting. Once that pressure had done its work, the drone team brought in a large quadcopter carrying a microphone and began talking the Russian soldiers through their own surrender, issuing instructions in language they'd understand, step by step, and guiding them the whole way to Ukrainian lines. All 3 men made it in alive, and no shots exchanged in that final stretch, sometimes achieving in 2 days, with a loudspeaker what used to take a much bloodier assault. Because there's a significant meeting happening, President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has landed in France for a gathering of the so-called Coalition of the Willing. Zelenskyy himself flagged anti-ballistic defense as the top priority on the agenda, and Ukraine is bringing something concrete to the table: its own anti-ballistic program, which will be presented directly to partner nations. What makes today notable is the format. For the first time, this will bring together national leaders, national security advisors, and representatives from defense companies, from countries that are actually capable of contributing to a new anti-ballistic architecture. That's a deliberate escalation from talking points to something closer to an actual build-out. In the northern Sloviansk and Kursk sectors, the Russian forces launched one assault on Ukrainian positions. That single ground assault was backed up by 20 separate strikes on populated areas and troop positions, one of which involved a multiple-launch rocket system. Artillery shelling of the border regions in this area has continued without a break, which has become something of a grinding daily reality for the towns and villages sitting closest to the border.
У вас раненые есть? Раненые есть?
Не, нормально все. Вот там, в этом доме.
Там?
Це вирва від прильоту. Зараз рятівники з обох сторін гасять пожежі.
Moving south, we reach the southern Sloviansk sector. This is the area around Vovchansk, a town that's been fought over for a long time now. Russian forces made 5 separate attempts to break through Ukrainian defenses near Vovchansk itself, near the nearby settlement of Yurivka, and in the direction of Zarubenka and Hoptivka. Of those 5 attempts, 1 engagement is still ongoing as of this report, meaning Ukrainian troops are actively holding the line there right now. In the Kupiansk sector has stayed quiet. No enemy offensive operations were recorded there, a rare calm stretch along a front line that rarely gives anyone much rest.
короче, нашим проводником. Ну, и планшет, ну его нахуй, блядь, проводник. Что за тяги?
In the Lyman sector, Ukrainian troops turned back 3 separate attempts by Russian forces to advance, one toward the town of Chernyshina, one toward Lyman itself, and one in the area around Novoselivka. 2 of those 3 engagements are still active, which means Ukrainian units are continuing to hold their ground even as this report is being compiled.
Крию! Крию, крию!
Just south of that is the Sloviansk sector, and this is where the numbers start to climb again. Ukrainian defenders repelled 17 separate enemy attacks. These were spread across several points, the settlements of Kriva, Luka, Oleksandrivka, and Piskunivka, as well as the areas around Hryshyne and Zakitne. 17 attacks in a single sector in a single day gives you a sense of just how relentless the pressure has been in this part of the Donbass.
От і сьогодні ми вам показували, все, Unveils. Таке у нас наша для чого? Ну, крім того, не знаю, мою думку, що там або ззаді них там якісь загранотряди йдуть, або що, або просто хіба за гроші йти, ну це вони якісь зранені, що багато їхньої техніки, яка їхала, не доїхала, получив подаруночок. Ну, так.
South of Kramatorsk lies the Kostiantynivka sector, where Ukrainian forces repelled 8 attacks. These came near the town of Kostiantynivka itself, as well as around Ilanivka and Ivanopilia. 3 points that together have made this stretch of front line one of the more contested spots on the eastern axis. And now we come to the sector carrying the heaviest weight of the Pokrovsk. Since the start of the day, Russian forces have made 21 separate attempts to dislodge Ukrainian troops from their positions, more than in any other sector on the entire front. The fighting is spread across a wide stretch of ground, touching the settlements of Toretsk, Vasilivka, Kotlin, Udakny, and Filia, and pushing outward in the direction of Vilny, Belitsky, Novyi Donbass, Shevchenko, Mern, Serhivka, and Novopavlivka. 2 of those clashes are still ongoing right now. Pokrovsk has been a focal point of this war for months, largely because of its position as a logistics and transport hub for the wider region, and today's numbers make clear that Russian forces are still throwing significant resources at trying to take it. Just south of Pokrovsk is the Oleksandrivka sector. The enemy attempted 3 times to advance toward the settlement of Kalinivka and in the area around Zlogoda. 2 of those 3 attacks are still active. In the Huliai-Pole sector, where Ukrainian defenders repelled 8 enemy attacks, these were aimed at the settlements of Hirke, Vozdvizhivka, Tvitkove, Sharivne, and Huliai-Pole itself. South of there, in the Orikhiv sector, Russian forces launched 3 assaults on Ukrainian positions focused around the Stepove and Plavny areas. And across the rest of the front, all the areas not specifically named in this report, the situation has remained unchanged.
хотите, бля, все, что вокруг вас, блядь. Пушите их нахуй, они съебутся. Мочите, мочите. Не подпускайте к себе, молодцы, давай держаться. Чужой, как обстановка чужой.
А де він, скажи? Де він мене де?
Хуйово вони! Як обстановка хуйова!
Давай держаться, чужой. Работайте, работайте, не подпускайте.
As of this report, several engagements are still underway in southern Sloviansk, in Lyman, in Pokrovsk, and in Orikhiv, meaning the picture on the ground continues to shift even as these numbers are being read. These figures come directly from Ukraine's general staff and reflect their account of the day's fighting. As with any wartime report from a single side of the conflict, it's worth keeping in mind that independent verification of exact figures isn't always possible in real time, and that's the situation along the front as it stands right now.